Last time on the Sparky Does Things channel. Kirby was having a normal walk, and then Dark Meta Knight randomly shows up and slams his sword right onto Kirby's skull, and now Kirby has lost his sense of direction and can't seem to move right. Oh, and then he split Kirby into 4 versions of himself, and I'm stuck with the pink one that has left-right confusion. So let's see if the other half of Kirby in the Amazing Mirror is possible without pressing right. If you missed the previous part, it should appear in a card right above me, right about now. I'll wait for you here. But if not, let me quickly go over what happened last time, very quickly. First area was impossible, so I used input overriding to save on right presses. Missile was a pain to control, needed 2 right presses for the water sections, tornado saved me from a burning building, and I got 4 mirror shards. We clear? Great. Before we get into the actual video, it would mean a lot if you liked and subscribed if you enjoyed the series to this point. Or if you hated it, tell me in the comments how much you hate me and leave a fat dislike and unsubscribe to my channel. That is your choice. Oh wait, maybe I should sound more desperate. Viewer, please! Jumping back in, I knew I needed to go back into Olive Ocean's portrait to get myself access to Missile, so I can get Tornado. This also gives me a chance to show how you can get to Cabbage Cavern with no right presses, as you can enter through the left mirror, and hey, you can get to the Cabbage Cavern door, because you could just directly go left from this area. Also, to clear up any confusion, the way you get back into the door is just by getting damage boosted by a blipper. Anyways, given I have Tornado now, I need to think of the best route to get to Mustard Mountain. And I think I have around 2 to 3 options, but 2 that are really piquing my interest here. Rainbow Roots Button Room has the right entrance, which I haven't even gone in yet, but which leads me down a path where I can have 2 different ways of entering into Mustard Mountain. One which requires an ability to break hard blocks, Missile and or burning or hammer, whatever, or just an area that doesn't require any ability at all. The issue is if I were to come into this room with any other ability besides Missile, I would not be able to break those hard blocks, so Missile is pretty much required to get into that area. At first, I decided to take the normal path because I can bring Tornado with me, and obviously, it was an absolute breeze to get through. Until we were stopped by Tornado's one weakness, the edge of the screen. To explain what I mean in simple terms, when a tornado bounces off walls, bounce in the opposite direction of what the wall is at. So if the wall is to the left of the screen, you will bounce and move right. But what if there's no wall for Tornado to bounce off of? Well, you get stuck. No, that's literally it. You just get stuck and you cannot move in. You're pretty much soft locked if you run into a left wall. Obviously, this is not a good thing, so I call up the Warp Star and teleport back to the hub area, grab Missile, and I decided this time I'm going to take the hard block path since I might as well check it out, see if it works. The area wasn't too difficult. The only issue I really faced was conserving my HP. Yeah, I kinda saw this being an issue way before then, but it became a big issue because one hit is very much enough to kill you. And when I say kill you, I mean kill your run, because I lost many attempts because I just got hit once and my copy ability went too far to the right, which means I couldn't catch it. But soon enough, I made it into Mustard Mountain, and it wasn't really too difficult, as I said before. There was a few small hiccups, which wasn't all that bad. Considering how much this world has you moving left, there's not going to be a lot of issues unless you get hit by lava. That is until I hit this room. When looking at this room, you might just immediately notice a big issue. A zigzagged path. Now this path is what made me realize Missile is required here, and if I brought Tornado here, I would have to reset. How, you may ask? A little issue called a editing carbon here. I was absolutely wrong about what I'm about to say, so disregard anything that I say ahead because Tornado can hit lava walls. I don't know where I got what I'm saying from. Tornado isn't immune to. At least I thought it would be. Crashing into it with Missile is also damaging, but you have a way to control when you explode, so it didn't really cause much issue. Besides that one big mistake room where I could just got really lucky and called one of my Kirbys and they just so happened to have Missile, so I killed them for the Missile ability. It wasn't all that bad, and I had a pretty straight shot to the boss. Also of Mustard Mountain is the cloud that really wants to kill Kirby. I don't know why he does, but he does. This boss was just like a boss of pure patience because Kracko will never reside in the middle of the stage, so sticking there was my main plan. I got Beam, which is a bad ability, but proved itself useful because it allows me to just sit still and do nothing, unlike the other ability that can drop Burning. So yes, I know Tornado can spawn, but I'm not willing to spend minutes upon minutes going for it. Beam did its one job greatly. With my 5th Mirror Shard in hand, I just moved on to the most obvious route, Carrot Castle. Yeah, I decided to lump these two together since both play out very similarly, except with differing gimmicks. Before going in, I expected them both to be easy. So Carrot Castle. I decided to pick this one first because I felt it would be much easier than Peppermint Palace because of its lack of ice. Believe it or not, slipping on ice is really bad for this challenge. Crazy thought, I know, but it's true! Anyways, Carrot Castle proved itself to be way harder than Mustard Mountain. Yeah, I was very wrong in my assumption about how easy these worlds were going to be. And I was dead wrong about Carrot Castle. The main issue with it is its length, which from start to end takes around 10 rooms, just to get to the boss. And trust me, it is a very big test of patience and endurance. Now, with Mustard Mountain being as dangerous as it is, actually allowed for copy ability storage, or just stealing abilities from other Kirbys. With Carrot Castle, that is not the case. While yes, most of it is leftward movement, copy ability stars always just so happen to hop right. Without fail, it always moves right. The reason copy ability storage does not work is because there's no good spot to have a fellow Kirby take damage without risking yourself or the ability. So I may or may not have spent an extended period of time just going at it with Missile. Why Missile? I was way too deep into using it, and I forgot that Tornado would be much better to use, but honestly, it was not that bad. It just really got frustrating because of the jank. Also, unrelated topic, but I ended up calling my Kirbys earlier in the run to assist in one room, and way later after dozens of attempts, which usually has blocks that block you from getting the yellow spray paint. But since I called the Kirbys earlier, the blocks are actually destroyed, and my other Kirbys are still stuck here being idiots. This kind of led to a realization where it turns out, if I'm not completely wrong about this, all of my Kirbys will be stuck in a designated area so long as there's nothing to kill them, and there's nothing that can make them leave the room. AKA, Shadow Kirby cutscene makes it impossible for them to leave the room. So they're just going to be stuck there until I start that cutscene. Which, how are you going to find this out? Like, actually, how? Anyways, making it to the boss was difficult, but the boss, probably one of the hardest ones so far. There are a few things to talk about with this boss. Yeah, you can like spawn camp him until he dies, but I never got it consistently because Missile is obviously inconsistent. It works way better with Tornado, but I ended up getting it after many deaths and mistakes. Oh, but that's not it. No. Mega Knight has 2 phases! Thankfully, this one is way easier, and if you end up losing your ability and are in the right corner, you can easily just camp his shots and just, shoot them back at him. I know the way I'm describing this boss makes it seem easy, but you have to take into consideration that his fist attacks never consistent. These attacks can sometimes just take up more than half the screen. Has a hitbox for if you run into him, the walls can destroy your copy ability. You cannot damage him normally, and many other factors which add up to make this boss just suck and drag on. But after that, I gained my 6th Mirror Shard, putting me another step closer to the final boss. But wait! There's more! Peppermint Palace was definitely worse, but I have to say way less, because it's similar structure to Carrot Castle, besides me spending like half an hour just going through the castle path and losing my mind. In fact, just to make sure that this way was quicker and an easier path, I had to pull up my 100% save file on my DS Lite just to make sure that it was. And here's a real photo of my DS Lite opened on Kirby and the Amazing Mirror just to prove that I'm not lying to you. I went that far. And then I switched paths, which is really funny because the other path was just significantly easier. And most of it, I just ended up running left and I just kind of did not get hit that much. But when I did, I lost Missile. Oh no! So I just kind of kept going, praying that I would maybe get something good. And to my surprise, a tornado enemy was just right at the left corner. So I had a huge sigh of relief, and thankfully I was in the right spot to just grab the tornado guy and leave the room. And I finally make it to the boss. Yeah, this is the easiest boss by far, besides its undamageable hat thing. Wiz is kind of a joke, and it's really funny how easy of a boss he is. Yeah, that was the shortest explanation by far, so here's a Kirby and the Amazing Mirror fun fact. Some of the bosses just have weaknesses and resistances. Yeah, I'm not joking by the way. Wiz, Gobbler, and Mr. Golem, just to name a few, all have these weaknesses and or resistances. Gobbler is weak to thunder and slash-based attacks, which means if you use Spark, Beam, Sword, or Cutter, it'll deal twice the amount of damage. Wiz, on the other hand, is resistant to 4 types of attacks: Thunder, Fire, Slash, and Ice, which are all self-explanatory. Which I actually find super fascinating because I had no idea about this until the making of this video, and I thought I would share this knowledge with you. This is also probably why the Dark Meta Knight fight was so easy with Sword. I couldn't really find any information based on this, but I believe that you probably deal double damage with Sword against Dark Meta Knight because of how much quicker the boss is. And or his resistance pool is just way bigger than I would have imagined. But anyways, I get the 7th Mirror Shard, and let's just jump into the last world. It's a doozy.
I just can't do it. I can't take this shit no more, man.
Remember how in the first video I said that Candy Constellation was probably the easiest? Well, I was wrong. Dead wrong. But let's talk about just getting there first, because even with a direct path to it, this was moderately difficult because it requires some unique tech, like, get a look at this spiked corridor. Looking at it as it is, you'd think that the room would be very difficult, which it kind of is, but it's not really that difficult. What I did here was some momentum conserved puffs to cross the gaps, which is when I slide kick off a ledge and then immediately puff, which keeps my momentum. And then when an enemy was in front of me, I would just shoot air at them until they died, which did the trick. Like, once every 5 attempts, but given enough trial and error, I was able to make it. The room right here was surprisingly one of the biggest issues so far, mostly due to how I have to get past the vertical corridor, requiring some interesting bouncing from Tornado, which I switched to earlier, because as I thought it would be easier. And then I immediately realized that Missile would have been way better, because this room is just impossible without one right press, so I just sit here and do nothing for like 5 minutes. Nah, I'm just joking. I wait for one of my Kirbys to grab themselves an ability that can break hard blocks, and, well, the next room was trivial. One of the rooms required a few resets, and I just had to get my Kirbys to push me just enough to be able to make it. After enough resets, I make it to Candy Constellation. Hey, editing Carbon, how long was the footage for Candy Constellation? Over an hour! What? Yeah, okay, that doesn't seem like a lot, but keep in mind, both Carrot Castle and Pyramid Palace took half that time. Mostly, all of the other worlds took half that time, and would you believe me if I told you that there were only, like, 3 problem rooms? Just a small rant about each room, and why they genuinely made me want to give up or just stop attempting for that day. This room is very straightforward, yeah, until this small corridor right here. The main issue are these 3 enemies, which can just make you lose your copy ability, and honestly, sanity. Reset after reset. I spent so long doing this that I was able to discover some weird fucking tech. Like, did you know in Kirby and the Amazing Mirror that if you slide kick into an enemy at the right time and have the right distance, you can flip directions? I was genuinely going insane because you can't kill bigger enemies with a slide kick. So I just had to space it right to make it. I was trained by then, but I pushed through. Soon, Problem Room 2 arrived. This one actually made me go even more insane somehow, to the point that I switched to Wheel, which is a decent ability for this challenge, just to make it by. Also, the random fun water block here definitely doesn't make this section extremely annoying. No. Little did I know that this was a bad omen. Room 3. Oh, Room 3. First off, UFOs have unpredictable movement and annoying attacks, which means reset! These stupid plane guys are in terrible spots, but that's not even the biggest issue, because right in front of me, there's something I completely forgot was even in this level. In fact, here's a reenactment of how I felt in that moment. Oh, no, you're joking. Are you joking? Yup, just a big amount of water! So I just went all in, input overriding till I made it to Master Hand and Crazy Hand, stabbed both of them to death, and let out a sigh of relief, knowing I would not have to deal with that again. Looking back, I do think that one right press might be able to be done, but it would require getting Missile to this room and using it right at the bottom of the water, then pivoting it down so you get more rightward movement. And in theory, you would barely make it. But that's my only idea. If someone wants to put this into practice and send me a video of them performing it, then good on you. I will definitely make a comment or an update post referring people to your video. That's if I don't end up editing this in now. Yeah, post-editing Carbon here. Yeah, it's possible. You can literally watch the screen. I fucking got it. So, that means I was wrong. This is, of course, me being wrong. This is very unscripted because I just quickly went to go check back just to see my theory. I was right. Yeah! 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 Okay, back to your regular schedule programming. This is so fucking insane. But now that I'm done, I can safely say Candy Constellation was the worst in the entire run, at least for me. I thought this world was not going to be that bad because there's a bunch of random things that make this level just way easier. Like a bunch of random slopes and also this random interaction where if you do a slide kick at the right point, you can actually change your direction, which makes it so you can kind of beat this one room without pressing right at all with most abilities. But now, after getting our last mirror shard, I can finally move on to the final boss of the game. Entering the mirror in the beginning, I was faced with Dark Meta Knight again. He was fairly easy, and I don't think I have to explain him. I think it's important to set up something here though. This boss has many different phases. Actual boss fights, which can be annoying, but not really worth talking about, and the level sections, which are just glorified rooms that aren't too difficult. And then the game told me that it really hates me and that it wants me dead, and then threw me into a water section. So yep, that's another right press. My god! I take this as an advantage to start using input overriding for the next phases. I know all of these would be possible with skill and luck, but I would be setting myself up for failure, so I hope you understand the input overriding. What he did do was stop holding right for the final phases, which, while difficult, due to his high HP, are not too bad until we get to this phase right here. And, well, let me just show you my best run. So, is it possible to beat Kirby in the Amazing Mirror without pressing right? No. But does that really matter? I did all of this stuff. I was faced with many challenges, and I still overcame them. So what if I couldn't beat it in 0 right presses? Sometimes the task is impossible, so you have to find the best way to work around those struggles. But enough of that motivational crap, let's talk about the numbers, baby! In the total 9 worlds, 8 were possible without the use of the right button. 2 required for Olive Ocean, and 2 other miscellaneous right presses which were required for the tutorial area and Dark Mine's Cabbage Cavern sub-area. As for the tier list, Tornado remained at the top, with Miss a little bit behind and Fighter being pretty far behind. Beam was a personal favorite, and I hate Ice for everything that it did to me, which was nothing. But finally, the moment you've all been waiting for! How many right presses does it take to beat Kirby in the Amazing Mirror? Drumroll please! It took me 4 right presses to beat the game, which was way less than I expected. So why don't you go tell a friend of yours that you could beat Kirby in the Amazing Mirror with only 4 right presses. Or you could just send them this series of videos and have them watch it. As for me, I'm going to take a break from Kirby and focus on whatever my next challenge video is. But that's all for this video. Thank you so much for watching and any further support. I will see you guys whenever I see you. Bye bye.
This is Uncle Rabbit. This is Uncle Seal. This is Uncle Fox. This is Uncle Puppy. This is Uncle Bob himself.